Hello and welcome to In Touch with Durham County, the show designed to provide you with information about Durham County government people, programs, and services. I'm your host, Deborah Craig-Ray, Chief Communications Officer. Today, we are so pleased to have on the show two outstanding guests. In segment one, we will have a conversation with your new county manager, Claudia Hager. She is a veteran public administrator and has a unique vision for our community. In segment two, we will introduce you to County Commissioner Michelle Burton. She is one of three new commissioners who took office in December and who has hit the ground running. Let's begin our conversation. We just want to welcome you and congratulate you, and we're just delighted that you had time to join us today.
Thank you, Deborah. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I know you've been around Durham for a little while, and we'll get to that. But let's help our viewers learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us where you're from?
Sure. I am from the eastern North Carolina part of the state, Hertford County exactly. And if my family and friends, they would want to know the actual town, Harrellsville. Many of you may not have heard of that place, but I grew up there. I had a close-knit family and have enjoyed the benefits of living in a community like that, as it gave me a grounded foundation.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about your formal education. Where'd you go to school and what did you study?
Sure. I went to Winston-Salem State University. I studied in economics, got a degree in economics and a minor in finance. I then went on to North Carolina State University to obtain my Master's of Public Administration. I also focused in finance as well there.
So certainly that has served us well. Now, I know you have had various positions in local government, in state government, in higher ed. Walk us through that if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, I started out my career, oddly enough, in local government, I will say, because I did an internship with Durham County government. When I was a student at North Carolina State University, I had a fellowship, and it was to focus in economic development. And we had these fellowships, but we had to actually find our sponsor.
Okay.
So I had a conversation with the former county manager at that time, George Williams, and he placed me in the planning department, the city county planning department. So I always claim that as my first experience, one of my first, but I also worked with the North Carolina Partnership for Children upon graduating at NC State. Formally got my first job with the North Carolina Partnership for Children, which is the initiative that facilitates the Smart Start program, which is focused on child care issues. From there, I formally came back to Durham County government as a budget analyst, worked for a period, and then became the Budget and Management Services Director. Left local government in 2000, which seems like just yesterday.
Yes.
And then worked in higher ed. I worked for 7 years at North Carolina Central University, 2 separate periods. And then I worked with the UNC System General Administration, which is the oversight entity for the 17 constituent institutions. Always worked in finance and policy at both institutions. In 2014, I came back. I think that's the story of my career.
Keep bouncing back to Durham.
Back to Durham. So in 2014, came back to Durham County government as the Budget and Management Services Director, and over a period of time was promoted to a general manager, which is similar to an assistant county manager, and served as the deputy county manager most recently. During my tenure prior to county manager, I also was the interim county manager for 2 separate occasions. So I would say that Durham has definitely been a phenomenal place to work, having come back a couple of times, but this community is just awesome. And so to be a part of the vibrant community and the leadership is just such a wonderful blessing.
Yeah, well, indeed, we are so grateful that you have come back a couple of times. Now, I know that you've had a lot going on in these past few months as you've become our county manager. I think you took office in, I believe, November of last year.
That's correct.
How are these first few months going?
While they have been quite busy, to say the least. Although I've been with the county for some time and have a long storied history, it's been most important for me to go out to departments and to hear firsthand what's going on, to get ideas. It's nothing like getting an idea from someone who's closest to the issue.
Yes.
We have such a vibrant workforce, talented professionals who are so committed to Durham's success. So it's been an exciting time, also quite busy visiting partners. We have so many community partners as well. And I'm just grateful to have this time of transition. It's also been quite busy because we're in budget season. Mm-hmm. And this season is quite like none other, as we all see the national landscape and how the dollars are flowing a lot differently than planned. But it's been a great few months so far.
And then there's this other little thing that's happened. You've had a new board of commissioners on board. How is that?
That is going quite great. We have 3 wonderful new commissioners. We started out in December with formal orientations with all the departments. They had a chance to hear about departments. It was interactive, so they were able to engage and ask questions, and they are just intrigued about all that we do here, with lots of ideas of how we can become even better. So excited about this board, their attentiveness to the details and thoughtfulness on how we can just do things better, but also their patience and understanding how we do our business and how we benchmark against others. So just grateful for the board, their approach to leadership, and their integration with departments and the other board members.
Yes. Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you're going out to the departments and just hearing from department heads, and then, of course, with their staffs. I know you haven't gotten to everybody yet because we've got, 30-some departments, but have you gotten any surprises with those visits?
I have really been surprised how some closest to the issue, some of the frontline employees, have come up with such innovative ways to do things more efficiently. That should not be a surprise, but I'm grateful they're sharing that. The way my approach in talking with the departments, I have some one-on-one conversations with the department head as well as some of the leaders. And as the time allows, we'll have questions with individual employees. And the questions are often, well, what's going great with Durham County? And if you had a magic wand, what would you change? Yeah. That magic wand question has yielded lots of great ideas. And so I'm excited on how we will start implementing some thoughts and having groups around those process improvements. But it's just a style that Durham County government has. It allows for individuals to share how do we become better. And so this is no different than any other time. I'm just grateful to be a part of the leadership to help some of those things come to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, of course, you've been at this just a few months, but what is your vision for Durham County government?
That was a great question. My vision for Durham, it is that it is an inclusive, responsive, and innovative organization. Durham County, in my opinion, is one of the best jurisdictions in the country, if not the world. As we prepare for the future, making sure that we are responsive to those needs in our public health, mental health, and other human service areas, that we have the highest performing organization in the standpoint that we are making data-driven decisions and also are changing as our residents are changing and their needs are changing. And so, but most importantly, that we were also visionary in looking at the infrastructure needs that are for decades to come. We just can't look at what's needed right now. We have to be focused on the operational needs for the future as well as our infrastructure. So a sustainable organization that's driven on future needs.
That is absolutely critical, because on my way in this morning, I heard a report from the census that, of course, our region, the three counties, Durham, Orange, and Wake, we're responsible for about 15% of the population growth for an entire state. So we definitely are a pivotal part of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you do for fun? And let me just add that I think you have a teenager at home.
I do. I have a 15-year-old who keeps me quite busy. There's never any boring moments with him. I also have a bonus son who's 27 and who lives in Boston, and such a delight. I try to, when I have some slow time, which is very rare, to do some crafts. I love doing things with my hands. I love refurbishing old furniture. And when I want to just collect myself, you may find me at the Eno River or on one of the trails, or I sometimes will do some day trips to our coast or to the mountain areas to restore. So I try to be as low-key as possible.
Well, that's just fantastic. Well, our time has just really flown by, but I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, for helping our community learn more about their new county manager. And again, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's been a pleasure sharing.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will talk with one of our new county commissioners, Commissioner Michelle Burton. We'll see you on the other side.
I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us, but try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same. But you have excuses because you're old, so it's okay.
Listening is a form of love. Find ways to support your kids at sounditouttogether.org.
It's like we just arrived.
I'm here today because of Tanya's relentless efforts in trying to get me healed. When I came back from the war, I became a homeless veteran. I was barely hanging on by a thread. The one thing that was constant for me was music. Music led me to Tanya. Normally with a veteran, we think we can solve everything. The truth of the matter is we cannot.
I just knew that something was different, something was off. I let him know that he wasn't alone. There are people that loved him.
And says, Michael, I know you've got a plan to take your life today, but if you give me just 5 more minutes to love you.
5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, honey, 5 more minutes to love. Michael has actually taught me what it looks like to accept help.
Welcome back to In Touch. It is my pleasure to welcome Commissioner Michelle Burton to the show. Hello, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm real excited to be here.
I am looking forward to our conversation.
Cool.
Yeah. So please tell our viewers a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I lived there until I was about 14 years old, and then I came to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I went to high school and lived with my grandparents. And so after I graduated from high school, I attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I went to the same college that my dad went to. So when I got accepted there, it was like, okay, that's where you're going to go. And so while I was at UNC Chapel Hill, I majored in speech communications, and I was like, well, what am I going to do after I graduate? And someone recommended to me, well, why don't you like libraries, why don't you get a master's degree in library science? And so I applied to some schools, and I got a scholarship to attend North Carolina Central University to get my master's in library science. And so my high school teacher, she told me I was going to be a teacher one day, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to be a teacher. And so while I was in graduate school at Central. My track was originally law school. I wanted to be a law librarian, but then I decided I don't know if I want to continue to go on to school, so I did the children's librarian track, and then lo and behold, I got my first job at a school. I started working at Southwest Elementary here in Durham as a media assistant, and then I eventually got a job at Hillendale Elementary School as a computer teacher, and then a school librarian at C.C. Spalding, and I worked as a school media coordinator, school librarian for 30 years, 21 of those years here in Durham County. So that's what I did.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So you had a career in education.
Yes.
What brought you into politics? What made you want to become a county commissioner?
Well, that's interesting you ask that because I never saw myself as an elected official. I grew up in a family where we were very community oriented. So growing up in Chicago, that's a big union town, and my grandfather was a Pullman porter, and my uncle was very involved with the electricians union. And here in North Carolina, my grandparents in Fayetteville were very civic oriented. My grandfather was the president of the Fayetteville branch of the NAACP. My grandmother was a teacher for 40 years. I had relatives who did things across the state with regards to community activism, politics. And so I was around that a lot as a kid, but never thought to be an elected leader. So around 2015, I came back to teach in Durham, and I was very involved with the Durham Association of Educators. And in 2017, 2018, people wanted me to be the president of the Durham Association of Educators, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. But then I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it and see how it goes. And next thing you know, when I become president of DAE, a pandemic hits, and you had to lead during a very, very tough time. And during that time period, people were coming up to me and saying, you really should run for public office. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But people were like, you really have it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I do. And I was really inspired by those politicians, those elected leaders in Chicago, particularly this woman named Toni Preckwinkle.
And I know her.
Yes, she is the president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. And I thought, wow, that is a cool job. And I said, well, why not county commission? And so finally my cousin said to me, Michelle, if all the good people don't run for office, that's why not so good people run, and we need good people to run for office. And when she said that to me, I said, okay, I'll run for public office.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that background with us because, again, we're just trying to let the voters begin to know who you are and how you operate.
Yes. So the county commission was it. Many people were like, well, why not school board? Well, the county commission was office that I was interested in because you can focus on bigger issues. One of the things that I saw many of my students and their families struggle with was with housing. We also had an issue of mental health crisis in the schools, of course, school funding, health issues, all these disparities. And I felt, okay, if I wanted to focus on these bigger macro issues, then I need to run for the county commission where you're dealing with all those things at the county level so I can help more people, because it's really important for me to help people live their best lives and to thrive.
Very good. Now, one of the things that I know has happened since you took office in December, you have gone through an orientation with our departments, and I think you have gone over to the School of Government, new commissioner school. And so how has that been, trying to get your arms around all of this new stuff?
Well, it's been, a lot to take in, but as the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? What I have been so fascinated by is all the things that Durham County government does. I mean, public health, Department of Social Services, environmental and engineering services, EMS, general services, just to keep our county running smoothly and efficiently. So many of our residents don't even know. It just goes on behind the scenes, and we just see the fruits of it. So that's really been fascinating to me. At the state level, understanding how the counties work in relation with the state, and at the federal level, I went to NACO a couple of weeks ago, and just understanding how the federal government with the funding and how it trickles down to the counties, that is such a big component of our funding. We get about, 10%, a little about 10% of our funding from the federal government to fund DSS and other areas, and just understanding why this is important and just seeing the bigger picture. So I am really excited about working in county government, because I'm really clearly seeing that county government, government in general, can do such good things for people. It plays we can really do good things for the community, for people, and that's really what I'm enjoying the most about it.
Great. Yeah, I was going to mention that I know that you're beginning to go to meetings, area meetings, and meet commissioners from other parts of the state and the region. How's that going?
I'm really enjoying it. One of the things that I had the opportunity is to meet some of my co-colleagues from Wake County and some of my colleagues from Orange County, and it was really exciting to see them at NACO because we're neighbors and we're right connected to each other. But one of the things that I really like is talking to commissioners from across the state, and they may be of different political parties and such, but what I'm realizing is we're dealing with a lot of the same things in our counties, and we have to work together in order to bring things back to our counties because our people need it. So I really understand the role of bipartisanship. We have to kind of, forget about some of these ideologies and work together cohesively to do what needs to be done for our residents in our county. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed when we went to NACO. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners had a mixer for us, and I got to talk to people from Randolph County, and Craven County, and all those things. So I'm really liking it.
Great. Well, one of the biggest things that commissioners do all year is to, of course, craft the budget, approve the budget, and we're just beginning to move into that process. So what are you thinking at this point about the budget process, and how will you work through that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, even though the commissioners, we have to get elected individually, we have to work cohesively as a team. So just listening to my fellow commissioner colleagues on the board, thinking about listening to their priorities and us coming to a consensus. But I really like the fact that we're sending out a survey for our residents to complete so we can get feedback from them. I also like the fact that we get to meet with the county manager once a month. We do a one-on-one with her so we can communicate what our priorities are because, we have to make sure that we're listening to people and focusing on the priorities that means something to them and making their lives better and making Durham County better. So I'm looking forward to that part, that we're working collaboratively together to get the things that we need for our residents.
Great. Now, most people may not know that in addition to being a commissioner, you all also sit on many boards and commissions and spend a lot of time doing that. Talk about that if you would.
Yes, so we sit, I think I have 10. And, when I shared that with one of my friends, they were like, well, I was like, yeah, 10 boards and commissions. So I get to serve on the Carolina Theater Board, Alliance Health, Museum of Durham History. I'm on the Farmland Protection Advisory Board. I serve on there. I also serve on the Library Board of Trustees. That was a no-brainer. And so one of the things when I go to those meetings, I'm there to listen and hear what people are saying and what's important, and how I can bring back those ideas and what's being talked about to the Board of Commissioners in order for us to make really good decisions. So even though it keeps me busy, I really do like going to those meetings. And so far, they've been really great, and I'm just meeting really great people here in Durham County. It's the people here that keep me going, and just really trying to, be of service. I'm a real big believer of servant leadership. So far the committees are going great. They're busy though.
Yeah, well, good. Well, we're about out of time. Quickly, when you have a little time, what do you like to do?
I am a voracious reader. I am reading a book now on the Civil War, the bombing of Fort Sumter. And also, I love taking long walks. I'm glad that the weather is warming up again so I can go on my walks again. And also, I like traveling, just taking little trips across the state, like going to some small towns and just seeing what's going on in these places. It's nothing for me just to take a trip down to Wilmington and just walk around and things like that. So those are the things that I like to do.
Fantastic. Well, Commissioner Burton, we just are so grateful for your time today. We thank you for what you're doing, and we're looking forward to a wonderful tenure as our commissioner.
Well, I am looking forward to being a commissioner, and thank you so much for having me today.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Be sure to follow us on our social media channels, now including Blue Sky. We'll see you next time on In Touch with Durham County. Cheers.